my name is Ernest Gibbs III. I am from Rock Hill, South Carolina. Rock Hill is more so known for putting out NFL football players, not, the next Bill Gates or the next Mark Zuckerberg. I would go up and say my tech journey has started since I've been a kid. I've always been into computers, more so going back to like the Windows 95 days where I was just playing, just computer games on the computer. My first troubleshooting step, or I can say that my first troubleshooting step was Control Alt Delete whenever I ran into a computer issue or just turn the computer on and back off as well, which is something that kind of followed me into like my first career path, which was tech support. But
I can't take no loss. I don't even know what it costs. I hit the ground and it go off. Yeah, hit the ground and it go off. Yeah, I can't take no loss. I don't even know what it costs. Yeah, I hit the ground and it go off.
So welcome back to the show. This is Them Tech Folks, and I'm Rico Randall, your host, and I'm joined by Ernest Gibbs III. So we're going to talk about Ernest's background, how he got into tech, and what he's doing right now, and what his aspirations are moving forward. Take us back to where you come from and that kind of stuff, and how you got introduced.
All right, so just to kind of speed the clock up. After high school, I kind of expressed the desire to get into doing computers.
Was it like something in high school that kind of like turned you? Was it like a class or something, or what made you decide you want to do it?
I would say at that time, I was basically my family's go-to tech person on when things were not working. Like, hey, can you go up and fix this for me? And basically that was pretty much my role within the family. Like, just kind of fixing tech things, whether it would be a computer issue or just a gaming issue on like a, gaming console. That was me. Or just kind of setting stuff up on the TV. That was basically all me.
Got it. Yeah. Same.
And my pops was like, hey, maybe you might want to get into, computers, and because that's basically kind of like your niche. And that's a really good field to be in. That's what a lot of people told me when I was basically kind of like having an interest in it and starting out.
Got it. So you the cousin that could fix it if nobody else could.
Pretty much so. Yeah, that's right.
Okay. You get a lot of people running towards you. They're like, hey, can you make a website?
Yeah, to this day.
Yeah, exactly. So you tell people you work with computers or work in tech. I've been meaning to make a website. I can do it, but yeah. Anyway, so you were always a logically driven person that could figure it out, right? You decided to pursue a career in tech. Did that change anything about how you went about school?
My only exposure to tech in high school was through the computer club, but I really didn't attend the meetings and whatnot.
It
was basically, okay, hey, let's go up and pick out a club you want to go up and join. And it was the computer club, but we never had meetings, and I never attended the meetings either. So that was pretty much like my brush with tech at that point. I would say that after high school, my original plan was to do 2 years at the technical school in Rock Hill and then transfer over to a university. It did not go as planned because my 2 years that I had planned, it turned into 6 years. And then I was just kind of in and out of school at that point until I went back in 2015 and then kind of finished up my degree in 2016. But in 2015, that's when I found out about the CompTIA certifications. At that time, everybody was telling me, oh, you got to go up and have the A+ to pretty much kind of get into tech. I was like, okay, so what's the A+? So I went and
this was after the 6 years.
Yeah, after the 6 years.
So what was it? Was it a situation? The reason for the 2 years going into six was that just like not really knowing what direction you wanted to go? Was it like a lot of
Yeah.
distraction? I know a lot of us get distracted in college, and
It was a mixture of distractions and not being motivated.
okay,
And I didn't have a roadmap on how to get into tech. I always
gotcha.
told people countless of times, okay, yeah, I want to go to school and do something in tech, but I didn't have a mentor,
Mm.
and I didn't have the wherewithal or the know-how to basically go on the computer and look up information about how you can get into IT.
So that's three different things, right? That you've pointed out, right? It was inability to be focused, right, on what you were doing, lack of a path, and what was the other one? Sheesh.
Motivation.
Motivation. Right, man. Thank you. And the reason why I point that out isn't to just unnecessarily highlight that, yeah, you were supposed to be in school for 2 years and it went 3x, right? That's life, right? And life happens. And the reason why I want to, highlight that is because your journey met you with these three obstacles, right? And at some point, whether that be just time, growth, maybe it was a person that you met that helped you find alignment and identify a correct path. But there was a situation that you had to overcome, right? Those are the not milestones. Those are the blockers that you had to overcome in order to excel. I think that's important because a lot of people, they don't get to the point where you are right now, where those obstacles are now, testimonies. Now you can say, I went through this. I was stopped by this, but I ended up going through it, or I made a way around it, or whatever. I figured it out. Um, so I just wanted to pause for a second to highlight that so people can maybe they can pull some encouragement because they're not feeling motivated, or they can understand that, hey, I just don't have a path. I need to link up with somebody that can help me identify my path, or validate it for me. I think you were at explaining how you had found out about the A+, the CompTIA A+.
Yes.
Okay.
So around that time, I just kind of read up on the A plus and what the certification was about, and basically it taught you hardware skills and software skills on the computer. The A plus is basically like a buffet of information about computers, and it just kind of gives you just a little bit of everything at that point.
Yeah.
In 2016 was when I actually got my first tech job, which was I was a tech support technician at a call center where basically we just serviced just different companies that needed technical support for their products. One of the main ones was like an ISP that was located in Charleston, South Carolina. And that's where I kind of cut my teeth in learning about just different technical jargons, learning about routers and modems. And some of the calls were about, helping somebody fix their TV and just fixing their phone, and just learning about just different, just technical issues that I would just come across, just kind of coming up in my own tech journey.
And this is all with
So,
just an A+.
um, yes, I was
Okay.
actually studying the A plus at my first tech job every day, about 3 hours a day, while basically working my tech job, working at McDonald's. And basically at that time I transferred into university as
Your
well.
tech job, your job was at McDonald's doing tech,
I was working at McDonald's as well as working at the call center.
working two jobs.
Yeah, man.
Hey, man, no days off.
No days off, most
If
definitely.
anybody's like, so you did say, A+, that's pretty accurate, right? A+ does cover a lot of things. Because A+ is centered around, desktop, from the client side, right? So from the client side, you could be dealing with the, peripherals, the actual system, some networking situations. I mean, even up to,
Yes.
having to understand, it goes to the router because, the IP addressing or whatever, maybe, not in the same segment as the gateway, or, just a
Right.
thing. So A plus is that's a great start because it gives you a little bit of a taste of everything. I mean, I can remember even like looking at, I don't know if they still do it now, but when I did A plus like years ago, I've actually like had to learn about buffers, like working 2 jobs, call center and McDonald's, and studying. So that's almost 3 jobs, 3 hours a day studying.
Yeah. I was studying at work when I could in between my calls, just to kind of get prepared for the actual. At that time, it was the 901 and the 902 was basically the two exams that you had to go to that you had to go through in order to get the actual certification itself. So I didn't have the actual confidence to take the test initially. So I started taking the exams in 2018. Once I actually felt comfortable with the material and once I got like a couple of years under my belt at my tech job to go up and start, going after it because, a lot of the information for a first timer who has never really been in tech before, it was a lot to go up and deal with. I basically just kind of learned things along the way and I started seeing as I was going through my first tech job, I started seeing things creeping up that were from the A plus start to creep up. I was like, okay, this is what this does. Okay, and this is what this does. That was kind of cool to go up and experience because it means I was starting to retain the information more and starting to understand, okay, this is why this happens whenever a person calls in about the internet not working or an issue with their computer.
It's a lot different when you're just reading something and versus you reading it and then it's actually happening right in front of you. I'm going through an audiobook right now. I can't think of the name of it, but they actually talk about like, ways to learn more efficiently, and recall is the top thing that they study with that. And
Right.
it's actually like doing it. So you're doing it on a daily basis while also learning it. You've also been learning it. So a lot of the stuff that you've learned as you're interfacing with it, in the real world.
Kind of transitioning from 2018 going into 2019, I got the 902 in February of 2019. And at that point, that's when, I posted it on LinkedIn, got a lot of congratulations for it. Had a lot of people kind of hitting me up like, oh, how'd you go about, passing the A plus? And I got a couple of job offers out of that, but I didn't think
Really?
I was ready because, I didn't think I was ready because I never really opened up a computer and whatnot and kind of played around with it. What I did do was I actually ended up putting an application in with another ISP that was local in Rock Hill, but the benefits of it was more money, and then they had job shadowing too, which was something that was not I didn't have at my first tech job because I was I was basically training for like 2 weeks before they threw me on the phone, and it was basically just pretty much just sink or swim. So when I got to my second tech job, which was internet support specialist, I basically was in training for like 6 months, just kind of just learning the ropes of what the customer expects. And instead of servicing several ISPs in a call center, I was basically servicing one throughout just different regions in both North and South Carolina. Um, I was wanting to go up and do the Network Plus. The first time I took it, I was like 20 points away from passing. And
Wow.
my score regressed as I went back to go take the Network Plus. I took it like maybe
It got
about
worse?
two. Yeah, it got worse over time because
Jeez.
I don't think I was committed enough to it to basically like be locked in with it. And that's when the pandemic happened. And
Oh,
around
this is
2020.
like, yeah, this is kind of, yeah. So this is like when the CompTIA exams were like, I remember when CompTIA exams was like super cheap. You know, now they're like what, like 250 or something, like
Really?
$300.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
That's
they're
how out of the loop I've been with CompTIA. So I didn't know that.
yeah, they used to,
Damn.
let me look this up.
If I'm not
But
mistaken, it was like 185 and like 150 at one point in time, if I'm not mistaken.
246 for A plus, 358 for Net Plus,
Oh my God.
392 for Security Plus. I think I paid that for my CISSP a long time ago. Cloud
Jesus
Plus
Christ.
358. Hey man, people getting paid off these certs. Like both ways.
Wow.
And if you pass it, you'll get paid. If you know how to sell yourself. So yeah,
Really?
man. I think CompTIA exams were like, I want to say like 85, but they were definitely no higher than like 125.
Yeah, around 140 at that time.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
crazy.
It's
Yeah,
slowly,
that's
it's slowly crept up. Um,
I've been out of the loop for a
I mean,
good minute now.
you get enough people saying that they had like job offers like coming out the woodworks off of just having A
Yeah.
plus. Yeah, CompTIA is gonna raise their prices up. It gives you time.
The
Um,
demand for it, yeah.
so you did the two A plus exams. The two exams required for A plus. I think it was 901 and 902. And then you started going for Network Plus. Like why Network Plus?
I had the mindset that when you get the A plus, you get the network plus after that. And I low key wanted to be like I want to be like the network part of tech, like a network administrator or maybe like a network engineer at that
Like a
point.
Cisco guy?
So yeah, a Cisco guy. I even sit
Okay.
up there and went and thought about doing the what
CCNA?
is it? The CCNA.
Okay.
I was thinking
Yeah.
about wanting to go up and do that at the time around 2019 and 2020, but I just wasn't really committed enough to go up and go after it because I I'm not gonna say I got complacent, but when you're making the money you want to go up and make and whatnot, at that point, you know, it kind of feels like you're there now. You
Yeah.
feel like you've arrived at that point. And I was just okay with making the money that I was making at that point in one time. And I just didn't go back to go after the Network Plus
And
the way I should have.
this is like McDonald's and call center is like behind you at this point, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I left
Okay.
McDonald's in 2019 at that. Once I got, my second tech job. Um,
You knock them fries on the ground and just moonwalk out.
Look here, when they offer you $19 an hour over
Yeah.
$9, you have to go up and take that.
You
Pretty
gotta
much
make
so.
that
So
move.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So um around that time I was just getting introduced to just so many different things and just like company perks because this was a medium sized but a corporate company. I got the chance to work from home. Um Job shadowing, like I mentioned before, which is job shadowing is what kind of led me to where I'm at now as a DevOps engineer. And I'll kind of get into that. So
Okay.
I got to learn
How'd you get
just
how'd you come to, know this role though? I mean, was it like a cold call from somebody seeing your accolades on LinkedIn, or was it a friend or something, some kind of
um I always knew about Comporium, and that's the name of the company, Comporium. And they always said that Comporium was basically a good company to work for in Rock Hill. And I always heard things like, okay, they treat you really well at Comporium and, you know, you get paid pretty much so. And I went on their website one particular day and I seen that they had an internet support specialist position open. And that was like between December of 2018 going into January of 2019. So I was looking at the qualifications for it and I'm like, wow, that's pretty much what I do now.
Yeah.
So I went and just kind of put my application in and put my resume with it and just see what happened. And about maybe a week later, I had gotten a call to basically kind of, interview for the job. I made it to like the second round, but I never heard back. And the next day after that was when I took the 902 CompTIA exam and passed it. But I never heard anything between February up until May, until they gave me a call back again and asked me if I was interested in the position. So,
Wow.
yeah, I went back in May, and this time around, I was in front of a black um, manager, black supervisor for the role,
So before it was a white person.
white guy. And he actually, we're still cool to this day. He's been like instrumental in my journey, and he kind of explained to me like, why they didn't go with me the first time. So, um, I guess the manager at that time, they chose another person over me, but what they did was HR sent the department my resume, and basically they showed an example of, Comporium turning down employees and they have the necessary skills to do the job. So, my former boss at that time just kind of went and they interviewed me, and they saw that I had the skills and I had the A+ certification, so I had the experience. So why not go up and take a chance on me? And when I got into the department, I flourished at the top of my team for like 4 straight months. And, I was just doing X, Y, and Z. And I was like really reliable on the team and in the department. And I was bringing
So
in.
it wasn't anything that they overtly found to be nefarious on anybody's part, like somebody hooking up a friend or anything like that, or
No, not at all. It was basically
okay,
they went with like another candidate at that time. So,
got it.
but,
Okay.
you know, I do feel like when you do have people who are in those positions who look like you, they will advocate for you
Right,
and they will
right.
go and give you a shot, because everybody deserves a shot in the tech world, in my personal
Was it a
opinion.
was it a was it an in-person interview?
Hmm.
I know this is like
Yes.
around the COVID time, so
No, this was before COVID. Actually, this was
yeah.
like 2019. So it was like a full
Okay.
year before COVID happens. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I was actually talking to somebody about this same thing, like, a week ago.
Hmm.
And they were asking about, because I was talking about representation, right, in tech, and like why it was important to me, And this is a situation. The analogy I gave was that, imagine like imagine the tech industry is like this fenced in area. You're on the outside, you walk up and you see everybody like having a good time, solving problems, making friends, making money. You're
Yeah.
like, man, I could use some of that money. I like making friends and I like solving problems.
Right.
That sounds interesting. It looks interesting. How do I get in there? But you looking in there and you're like, nobody looks like you or acts like you. Is that a space for me? You got to ask yourself, is that a space for me? And, some of us, we say no because it doesn't look like it. Some of us take a chance anyways and get in there. And then we maybe wonder why we on the inside, damn, is this my space? Is this a space for me? There's not a whole lot of people like me. Like maybe they treat me different, or maybe they ask me weird questions like why you talk like this or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, so it's important to, raise the level of representation in this industry so that people do feel like they can ascend to, come inside the fence and play with everybody else. That we all feel like it's a space for us, and the ones that are in already, that we do feel at home, and we feel understood and advocated for, right?
True.
'Cause I've been
Most
I've been
definitely.
I've been in situations like that where you've had, a person that looked like you that had to come up and kind of speak up, to the masses because I mean, your little voice, you knew, or maybe you're not even on the inside to where your voice can even be heard. So that's very important. Very important.
Yeah. And he was very respected and still respected to this day at Comporium. So they looked to him just for ideas and new ideas and whatnot. And, that's real cool to go up and be black and then have that type of influence like that. And that's something that I aspire to go up and be in my own tech journey. Just to kind of speed it up a little bit in the timeline,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
2020, COVID happens, everybody's home. We were basically home for 2 years. And, that was an experience in its own self because I had never had the experience of working from home and never had a work from home job ever at all. So that was something that was just mostly new to me. So around that time between 2020 and 2021, I kind of had the itch of wanting to do something different apart from tech support and basically being on the phone every day, fixing the same issues, for 6 or so years at that point, because I was basically hitting my ceiling in terms of, okay, I'm doing this repeatedly every day. So I started looking at different things that you could go up and do in tech. My former boss ended up leaving to become like the digital product owner for Comporium at that point. So I went and kind of had a curiosity about what his role entailed. And that's when I found out about Scrum. That's when I found out about sprints. He was basically in charge of creating a chatbot for the company and basically creating a knowledge base that customers can access whenever they have issues. So I found that to be pretty cool because he was working with Salesforce and basically just creating the chat bot out of Salesforce. And I was like, wow, that is like
That's
so
all that
freaking
is.
cool.
Right.
And like, you're working like basically at your own pace. You have self autonomy. Um, you're just basically just living the good life, pretty much so that any tech person wants to go up and do. So what I did was this is between 2021 and 2022. I just basically kind of like I went for Salesforce first and kind of learned Salesforce. And then I figured out, you know what? I don't exactly like Salesforce like that because Salesforce is very detailed and it's a lot of work. Most people don't understand that because there's a lot to learn in Salesforce. I think like one of the first certifications you can go up and get is like the Salesforce administrator or something like that. And then I went back to the drawing board and I was like, okay, maybe I don't want to go up and do that. So I went just kind of all in on the product owner thing and just learning about Scrum and what a product owner does. I was downloading courses from Udemy just to kind of understand, what the stakeholders expect, what the product is, how you lead the product from ideation to adding the features to it and all that. It came time for them to like pretty much kind of expand on the product owner team. Although I didn't have the experience of a product owner, I kind of went in to the interview when I basically signed up for it, just kind of off of what I knew. I didn't get the job. And the reason why I did not get the job was because I was too quiet. And
What?
they
Too
felt
quiet.
like they felt like I couldn't basically be in a room full of executives and I guess, you
Take
know,
control of the room.
take control of the room and convey my point
Yeah.
as to why these features are needed in this product. So
Got it.
that kind of put me down and just kind of had me bombed out of everything. And then I had like a lot of personal things going on at that time over the summer, around 2022 that I was dealing with. And
So was that a rejection that you just kind of rejected in itself? Like I mean, because sometimes like you'll miss a shot and you'll be like, you know what? Yeah, I know why I missed that. I know why I didn't get that. But were you kind of like, yeah, I still should have got that job, or how did you feel?
um, it was a rejection that I took at that time. I took personally because here I was committing myself to something that I really kind of like pretty much fell in love with. And to basically kind of be told like, okay, you're not there, being turned down at that point was just one too many times for me. And, it with that situation, they went with someone, I guess, who really thought, excuse me, that they were qualified. And I just don't know how they could have been qualified if I didn't hear anything about them putting in the actual work.
So it was less
I,
about like you, how you personally felt about yourself versus, you next to somebody else that they stacked higher.
because I felt like in my heart, I could have learned the role if given the opportunity, but I don't know. I didn't know the timeline or like, if they wanted to get the ball rolling and they may not have had the time to go up and train somebody in the role.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah, because like you were saying, sometimes they will afford you the opportunity to grow into a role. So yeah, I feel you there. But
so I just kind of stayed upset about it, over the summer. And I was like, you know what? My sister, who I helped, was kind of inspired to like get into tech. She was working with AWS. I said, my mom told me like, your sister's working with AWS and whatnot. And I'm like, hold on for a second. She's working with cloud technologies.
Mhm.
And she's like, yeah. I was like, okay, well, if she
That
can
older
go
or
up and
younger
do
sister?
that, this is my younger sister, my baby sister, actually. So when I found out that she was working with like AWS, I'm like, if she can do that, I know for a fact I can maybe go up and go do that. So let me go up and just download a course. And I downloaded the cloud practitioner course from AWS. It was the Stefan Merrick's course on Udemy. So,
Dude's
so I
dope.
got the,
He is dope.
yeah, he's a really cool dude. Um, his information was just like super insightful when I first looked it up and just started looking and learning, what S3 does, what EC2 does, all those technologies. It was basically like relearning the A plus again. That's that feeling that I had when I was looking over the cloud practitioner course.
So you got motivated again.
Um, I got motivated again. Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
there
much
you
so.
go.
So I was talking to my mom and whatnot, and I sent her a video. I'm not sure if you ever heard of Cyrus Harbin. Tech is the New Black. Um,
I've heard of that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah, I
he
know who that is.
runs. Yeah, he runs Tech is the New Black. And what
Okay.
was crazy was I sent my mom a video of him dancing in the robe, basically talking about his life, how he went from basically being homeless to basically being, high paying, sales engineer. So she was like, if why don't you go up and just look up a boot camp, because he went through a boot camp and he's basically doing well for himself. What do you have to go up and lose? I say, you know what, you are kind of telling the truth about that, mom. So I have been seeing Level Up in Tech online for you know a couple of years, because Broadus, I think, started around 2020, I believe, or 2021. So I went, look, just kind of vetted the program, because at that time I really, it was always told that you kind of stay away from boot camps because of how expensive they are, and what's the return on the investment of putting your money into a boot camp, because a lot of people put like tens of thousands of dollars into a boot camp and they don't get anything back from it. So I vetted the program. I just kind of went and just kind of did my own little detective work, before I kind of like, gave the folks over there a call, and, they explained to me the program and how it worked and the pricing and everything else of that nature. So I got into the program in September of 2022. And from there, I was just learning from the ground level Linux. I was learning Linux for like 4 weeks, and I took my first Linux exam and didn't pass it the first time. But the second time, I got my Linux exam on the second go around.
Was that
Did
the
that for four
LPIS
weeks.
for CompTIA?
That was the LPI Essentials, Linux Essentials certification. That was from basically Linux institution. Did that for 4 weeks and then got into AWS, which was the AWS Developer Associate, and just kind of relying on the skills and knowledge that I picked up over the summer from the cloud practitioner. It made it more easily digestible when I was learning the Developer Associate, and just kind of learning how you use those skills at a developer level using EC2, S3, DynamoDB, learning VPCs, all that. In between that, we were basically doing projects, working on projects, kind of putting our work out there on LinkedIn, and it's kind of showing what we've done over a course of a few weeks. Every time we were learning a new technology and learning a new skill. I was learning Python, made a couple of projects off of that. And then on my off time, I was basically learning how to code on my off time and, showcasing that on LinkedIn as well. I got to learn Docker, I got to learn Kubernetes, I got to learn Terraform. And this was all kind of wrapped into 24 weeks of just relentless studying and relentless projects. And then at that point, we were basically getting ready for our resume writing. Our resumes were getting tailored for basically putting resumes in at companies at that point.
That's a crazy progression, man. Sounds like they covered down on all the bases. Were they also doing like mock interviews for you guys to make sure you were prepared if you got, brought into an interview? Yeah. Nice.
And that right there, that's what sold me on getting into level up in tech, because of the bad interview experience that I had a year prior with the product owner interview. And because here I could actually speak to the experience that I had as a DevOps engineer or a cloud engineer, and basically just be like, okay, I know about this technology because I have a project on that. Let me tell you about a time where I had a situation where this wasn't working and I use X, Y, and Z skill to solve it. That's basically speaking with confidence and speaking with experience too. So that's what really pretty much sold me on the program, because they had mock interviews and interviewing prep.
Nice.
And then we did that for like 3 weeks.
Okay. And your graduation, I mean, is there a graduation, or is it just kind of like, hey, you got all the certifications, your resume looks great, you seem
Yes,
successful?
there is a graduation week for people who go into level up in tech. And then, once how the process works is you basically turn in like 15 projects, and you have to have at least about 1 or 2 certifications in order to basically be eligible for graduation. And I basically had all my requirements at that point.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the projects, like making
So
microservices?
at the ground, so at that time, they've kind of changed up the project since I've been in the program. But at the ground level, we were basically spinning up a web server for like Nginx and whatnot. And basically each project had like a level, like a intermediate level, advanced level, and like a more advanced level. And I remember this to this day. It was basically an intermediate project on how to spin up a server in Linux. Another project was how to fork a repository and clone it. Bash scripting, basically create a bash script that automates your commands and basically set up a server. Going into like AWS, spinning up an EC2 instance, and basically adding a web server to the EC2 instance.
What would
Do you use that?
what would you say would be your favorite project, or the coolest
My
one you did?
Coolest thing that we did was doing basically creating a Dynamo DB table, kind of based off of your top 10 favorite movies or your top 10 video games. I was a little catchy with a lot of my titles for my projects. So the Let's Play DynamoDB was basically setting up a DynamoDB table of my top favorite games of all time. And basically you have to set it up to where it basically has reader, like a read only policy on the IM. And you basically have to confirm that nobody can write to that database. They can only read it. And basically that's what I did. I set up the database and I set up the IAM role for it to where it can only be read, but not written on or not basically touched.
Yeah, when he says IAM, that's a identity access management. That's a AWS term. But go ahead.
Yeah, there you go. I remixed the project in Terraform and I did a Terraform edition out of it. And basically the idea of it, I kind of played it off on like Street Fighter 2. Remember back in the day where they had like Street Fighter 2 Tournament Edition, Street Fighter Turbo, Super Street Fighter Turbo. So I did it that way. But that was like my most favorite project that I did. At that point, I was just basically just doing more projects even after I graduated from Level Up, just in preparation for the job to go up and pretty much give me a call for an interview, because the real job is basically putting in applications to get a company to take a chance on you. That's basically pretty much a job within a job. I was basically putting in applications daily. And just one particular day in March of last year, I put an application in with a company and they got back to me a couple hours later for like an interview. And the interview.
Let me ask you a quick question. On average, how many applications do you think you were putting in on a daily basis?
I was maybe at least putting in about 5 a day. Man. 5 a day. So
if you're out there and you putting in less than 5 a day, don't be out there complaining, because there's people.
They were requiring us to put in. They were requiring us to put in 10.
And when I say that, I'm not like saying, hey, you need to, feel bad about yourself. What I'm saying is, yeah, he's got a job and you're not necessarily competing with it. He ain't putting 5 applications in a day now, right? Maybe, probably not even like 5 in 3 months, but because you got people looking for you right now. But what I'm saying is that there's people that were just as hungry as Ernest was out there right now doing this same level of work, or probably working harder. So you're working against them, is what I want to say. But go ahead, bro.
Oh no. Basically, they got back to me in the same day, and I had a little bit of hope at that point. I was like super excited. The process overall, I went through like 4 interviews with this company before I got the actual offer a day before my birthday. And just to kind of describe it, it was basically an interview with the recruiter first. And then I got an interview, a week later with like a member of the team. The third interview was basically with like the staff DevOps engineer of the team, just to kind of see what I knew. And then the last interview was basically, it was 2 hours. And basically it was like a 4-level interview where I learned about the product and I had questions. And the second interview was basically a behavior interview. They were just asking me questions like, how do you study? What are your studying habits? What drives you in DevOps? The third interview was the technical style interview where they were just kind of quizzing me on just different things. And then the last interview was basically with like the director or the vice president of our department currently. And that was like a 15-minute interview. He asked me if I had any sort of questions and, how I did on the coding assessment. I use ChatGPT, but, at that time. So I was just kind of honest about that. But I told him, like, I use ChatGPT as a learning assistant, not to
Like a
cheat,
template, yeah.
like a template, because, as someone who had 6 months of experience and not enough, coding experience, you have to pretty much just kind of lean on an assistant to kind of help you understand what you're trying to solve in the
Yeah.
code and understand the code itself.
And that's the difference. That's the difference that'll be, spelled out in the near future, right? There's some people that are looking for ChatGPT to do their jobs for them, and there's others of us that are only using ChatGPT to augment what we do. So yeah.
And now you have this rise in AI where it's going to become, it feels like a gold rush now with AI because you can do so many things with AI. It's like it's just the skies is pretty much the limit with AI now because you can create chat bots, you can make pictures, you can do little short videos with AI. That's where the technology is going now. Because now at first it was cloud, and now you have AI in the mix. What can you do now with?
Right. I remember when it was virtualization. That was and then you got cloud, and then it's containerization, and now it's a lot of this AI stuff. So yeah, you're right. There's always something to learn, right? There's always something new. It's not like plumbing. I don't know when the last time plumbing had an upgrade.
Right, if ever.
But with our
Right.
stuff, you're literally learning something new every year. Even if you are help desk,
Yeah.
it's changed quite a bit.
I feel like I'm super young in my DevOps career right now. So the main goal is to learn the technology that I work with every day at work. In like my first year. The second year, I definitely want to be more involved in projects and just kind of just learning just different skills outside of work too, because your professional growth outside of work is more important too, along with your professional growth inside of work as well. So I want to be well versed in other technologies and more versatile as a DevOps engineer. So, just one skill in software two at a time for me. Because right now, currently, I'm using Sneak. Right now, we've picked up Sneak at our job. And basically, Sneak is a software tool that will identify vulnerabilities in your code or your infrastructure as code scripts. So I definitely want to be a subject matter expert in that because that's something that I've kind of taken on at work. And I've worked with a couple of tickets for it to kind of be interesting to me and learn it outside of work too. So that way I can take that knowledge from outside of work into it. And it's kind of like, okay, hey, this is what I've been learning and this is how I've been using Sneak outside of work. So I would say, just to kind of get back to the question, just kind of learning a new technology, one at a time. Because when you take it all at once, it can kind of become confusing. But I definitely want to get into generative AI as well and just kind of learn how to use AI as the business uses it.
So with all these immensely technical roles, right? DevOps, you got the generative AI, AI stuff, as well. Do these kind of like take the forefront to your desires to pursue the program management role, or would that still be something that would be exciting for you, or you just find like new excitement in these new challenges?
I basically feel like I've found something that I can grow in, versus a few years ago, I didn't have like an actual path on where I wanted to go up and go. In cloud, there's so many avenues you can get into with cloud
Yeah.
and DevOps. So I feel like I've found something for right now that basically keeps me interested, and it keeps me wanting to learn new things daily.
And that's key. That's definitely key. There's challenges on both sides, on both of those roles.
Right.
They're different challenges. So you have to ensure that the challenge that you're, gravitating towards is in alignment to, the things that actually make you most excited. If it's a technical challenge, okay, cool. You might want to stay on the side of the house. Otherwise, if it's a maybe a political or the organizational challenge dealing with roadblocks to getting some product or feature into a product, and maybe on the other side, so it's important to understand these things so that ignorance is not getting in your way, because a lot of times people like, oh, well, what do I want to do? Well, you probably don't know enough about the roles, one or neither role. So get educated on your options, and now you can move forward with more confidence in your decision.
Always be curious about, what path you want to get into. We live in a world now to where you can get the information just like that. At that time when I was kind of pretty much starting out, we didn't have TikTok where you can go up and see what a day in the life of a DevOps engineer is, or a cloud engineer, or a network engineer, and just kind of, you have people giving you the information out now more than ever. So I would say use that to your advantage if you want to get into tech. And, that can kind of give you a sense of what you want to go up and do, or even if this is the right path for you. Another thing I want to go up and leave is that, if you are in tech, always try to create the jetpack for the next person, behind you to go and use to climb up the ranks or just ascend into the skies, because tech is such a vast place.
That speaks volumes to, the type of person you are. I've had like so many mentors, and, one of the biggest mentor, one of the most impactful that I've had, he always tells me when I thank him for, how he helped me through some challenging situations in my current job, hey, just pay it forward.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because that's the same thing I tell people, and now I just tell them loud. I say it, just pay it forward, just pay it forward. So it's good to see people, outside of my circle that's doing the same thing, and they're trying to make the same things go viral, right? Being kind
Right.
and looking out and making positive movements to reshape, the culture and how we move as people. So
Definitely.
I really appreciate that. And thank you for sitting down with me again for the second time.
Of course. I wanted to go up and just kind of pick this up.
Each time I've talked to you, it's been a great conversation, man. You are very intelligent, inspirational, and I do genuinely thank you for sharing your story. It's definitely going to help. If it helps at least one person, this is an hour well spent. And if it doesn't, I'll bill you.
It's all good, man. I'm always here to go up and inspire people. So it's all good, bro.